So I wanted to do a video. I saw a comment on one of my videos that asked, and they're just asking the universe. They weren't asking me specifically, at least I don't think so. But they were asking, what is the difference between a top player's brain and basically everybody else? And for me, I put that as the title here. What's the difference between a pro player and an average player? There's a couple things I would say, or actually a lot of things as far as the main differences. But the number one main difference for me is that top players, when it comes to recognizing how far they have to go to reach a certain level or have a certain level of performance, they never ever complain. They never ever say, oh, I have to do all of these things to become a top player. I have to do all this work to become, I don't know, notable or beat MKLeo or become a top 8 player in the world or get a sponsor or whatever it may be. They just say, what's the record? How much do I have to do? Or where do I have to go? And then they just do it. And I honestly reference ESAM a lot with this. With regards to a top player's mindset, he is someone, if you ever have watched his streams in the past, he'd be like practicing lightning loops, practicing bridge combos, practicing combos on Min, practicing combos on whoever. And he's literally just sitting there between 4 to 6 hours doing the same combo over and over and over and over again. And I point that out because that is something that a top player does and recognizes that this is what I have to do. Because I know that every other top player is doing this against me. This is what it is. If you want to be a top player, don't think for a single second that everyone else doesn't want to be a top player or isn't trying to outdo you. I'm not trying to be like a Eric Thomas hip hop preacher type of thing here where it's like, oh, you got to outgrind everybody, you got to outwork everybody, but you actually do. And that's not even like a Smash thing. That's everything. If you want to be the top musician in the world, if you want to be the, I don't know, person who makes the most money in the world or whatever it might be, you literally have to outgrind everyone or outwork everyone. And I feel like a lot of average level players don't want to do that. When it comes to studying frame data, that's boring. When it comes to studying combos on certain characters, that's too niche and I'll never actually need that. When it comes to studying a unique matchup, I'm probably never going to run into this character, so who cares? That's the mindset of a lot of players, and it shouldn't be. If you're trying to actually become a top level player, I will say this. You don't have to have 1,000 hours of experience against every single character in the game to be a top player. I will say that. However, thinking, oh, I hate fighting Game & Watch, so I'm never going to fight Game & Watch. I'm never going to practice against Game & Watch. I'm not going to learn any of his frame data. I'm going to just try my best to avoid a Game & Watch. And if I run into one, I'm just going to, I guess, not enjoy it. But I'm also going to just try and muscle my way through this and hope for the best. And if I win, that's sick. But if I don't, then thank God it's over. Top players don't ever think that. They think every time I'm in bracket, I have an opportunity to get past this person and make it further and potentially win the tournament. Yeah, and I would say honestly that I think that probably is the biggest thing. The mindset of just saying yes to everything versus saying maybe or no or maybe in the future or I don't want to do this or this isn't interesting. I feel like that's one of the biggest downfalls for a lot of players too when it comes to even content creation on my behalf is a lot of my flashier short videos are the videos that do the best compared to the longer discussion videos like the coaching videos. You could say it's partially YouTube algorithm not pushing it to people. That's part of it, sure. But also I'll admit that a very low effort video as far as editing and sound effects and a hook right off the beginning and being charismatic and funny and having jokes or whatever, like I don't know, broken tech, zero to death, flashy stuff, all those things, people really want to see that. But if a video doesn't have any of that, it's just a discussion, basically like a podcast, people get turned off of it very quickly, I find. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of the gold is in the game. If you listen to like something like Tweak Talk or Tweak's podcast, or even like when I do my own longer videos, I'll admit that if you are not really trying to become a top player or you aren't really interested in the meta of Smash, as much as it pains me to say that, then you're not going to watch it. You're not going to listen to it. Your brain just turns off and says, I want to see cool combos. I want to see Ice Climber desyncs I'm never going to use. I just want that hit of dopamine that says, yo, this was hype. Anyways, I'm going to continue on with my life. I would say everybody wants, it's the same, I would say, even with regards to music. Everybody wants to be able to perform live and make tons of money, maybe get girls, fly around the world, but nobody wants to practice in their room by themselves to a click track and no one's listening and no one cares. But that's where your money is made. Your money is made behind closed doors. It just is. As far as Smash, I wouldn't say it's that, but as far as like practicing your combos, practicing your bread and butters, practicing your beave movement, your wave bounces, your RARs, your platform movement, practicing combos on different characters, practicing on different stages. So when it's time to play, you as a player are a complete toolkit. You can do whatever you want to do. It's not like, oh, I really hope I don't have to play on Lilat tonight. I really hope I don't run into a Min tonight. That shouldn't even matter. Like, if you think you're like top players, like I'll say, of course there are players like, it's been on record, you could say, that Tweak doesn't like to fight Light. He doesn't want to fight Fox. He doesn't want to fight Light's Fox. But you better believe that he is prepared to fight Light's Fox. He's not like, well, if I fight his Fox, I'm guaranteed to lose. It's just fucking over. There's no shot. It's like, that would be a horrible mindset and a very, very unprofessional thing to do and think. So kind of going into the trenches as a mid-level player or high-level player trying to get to that next level, I would say as a call to action for yourself, go ahead and practice against these characters that you don't like. One of those things that you can do is join a Discord of characters that you hate. Not so you can make friends. If you want to, go ahead. But so you can play against this character and learn, why do you hate this character? Do you hate this character because they actually hard counter your character, or do you just not know what you're doing? In a lot of cases, it's the latter. A lot of cases, people have no clue what they're doing against certain characters. For example, I'll say like Lucario. A lot of people have no idea how to fight Lucario or Isabelle, right? Or like me Sword Fighter. So when you fight them, it's like, well, I guess I'm just going to lose. It's just over. It's nothing I can do. But have you ever talked to a Lucario main while not being tilted and asked them questions? What do you not like about your character? What is a big exploit for your character? What is unsafe on shield for your character? What is a bread and butter at a certain percent I should be looking out for? What are, let's say, Aura Sphere setups at certain percents I should be aware of? Is there tech chases I should be aware of? Like, would you look for this roll read in at a certain percent versus a roll read out at a different percent? You should know these things. And if here's the thing, I will say this too, as another more laser pinpoint focus thing for yourself, whoever is watching this, I wouldn't say go ahead and just do that for Lucario because I said so, or because that's the one example I said, but instead look at your own region, and whoever is in your region that is a threat to you, that's who you should look up. So if your region has, let's say, Pikachus, or your region has Inklings, or your region has Snakes, or your region has, I don't know, maybe a Mii Gunner or a Shulk or like a Meta Knight, something that's a little bit more foreign or a bit more niche, go and learn those characters. Because if you can beat Joker and Captain Falcon and Roy, but your local doesn't have any of those characters, you're probably going to stay going 2-2 for a very long time, or 3-2, unless you just muscle your way up and somehow you become a very high level player amongst the other characters by, I don't know, just farming, I guess, by just doing it forever. But you're so much better off saying, oh, I have a high level Palutena in my region. I have a high level Pyramithra in my region. I'm going to learn as much as I possibly can about them. I'm going to look up sets of this character, let's say Pyramithra fighting my character, we'll say Falco. I'm going to watch top level players playing those characters, and I'm going to watch mid-level players playing those characters. What is a huge mistake that a Pyramithra player might make that goes under the radar because the average person has no idea that that was a mistake? You should know these types of things in those matchups, right? So when it's time to actually be under the lights and play for real, if you see, oh, they just did a rising nair on my shield, and that's not safe, I can punish that versus just roll away or stay in shield, now they can jab. Or they do like wave bounce lightning buster or up beyond stage and has basically no legs. If I try and run in and do something, they can just jab me before I can do anything. Or they can lightning buster again because that's frame 7 iframes, for example. You should know this stuff. And this is where it gets overwhelming. For top level players, they don't know this stuff for every character, but they do know for every character that matters to them. So if you're MKLeo, you better believe he knows the Cloud matchup, he knows the Wolf matchup, he knows the Pikachu, Game & Watch, Min, Sephiroth, Pokemon Trainer, Wario, Diddy, doesn't matter. All these characters, he knows those matchups like the back of his hand because it's literally his livelihood. So if we're talking top player, if we're talking livelihood here, why would you not? Why would you not want to know all these things, right? So it turns into doing your own homework, doing your own due diligence and saying, if this genuinely does matter to me, look yourself in the face, in the mirror, and whatever. Look yourself in the camera, my camera, I guess, whatever. And ask yourself, do I actually care as much as I say I do? Because if you actually do care as much as you say you do, you would do these things. If you haven't done these things so far, then maybe you haven't had the slap in the face that you need. or you actually don't care as much as you say. And it's more like, I wish I was a top player versus I'm going to be a top player, or I'm trying to be a top player, right? And here's the thing too. Once you reach top playerhood or top player status, you're not done. Bruh, people are chasing you at all times. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be a top player, like even right now, MKLeo. MKLeo's losing to sometimes Tweak, sometimes Mars, sometimes Spargo, right? Sometimes ESAM. Everyone's human. All right, of course people do lose, but just to think that, oh, he's the best in the world, so he can just stop practicing until people catch up and then he'll start practicing again. It's like, no. Just because you're there doesn't mean that you're done. You're definitely not done, right? So as these people, let's say the top 8, or we'll even go bigger than that. Let's say top 100 top players are moving up the ranks and getting more and more optimized with their characters. The other thousands or tens of thousands or millions, we'll say hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of players who want to be genuinely competitive, they're all chasing at the same time, right? And I can say some living proof of that is Mars, because for a very long time Mars decided he wanted to do content creation. Nothing wrong with that at all, right? But he was even saying, like, he's kind of falling off. Like, you could see in his gameplay, he was losing to people he probably shouldn't have lost to, and he was not practicing and taking the game as serious as he once had. Of course, he's kind of out of that slump now, and he is taking the game much more serious again. But you can see, just because he was at one point someone who had beaten MKLeo, doesn't mean that he was just done. Said, okay, I'm number 2 in the world, or like between him and Tweak, number 1 or 2 in the world, or 2 or 3 in the world. I can just stop practicing or stop trying until someone catches up. It's like, no. If you stop, people are going to catch up fast, very fast, because they're still hungry. So with all that being said, that's my take, I would say, as to what is the difference between a mid-level player and a top-level player. Is that mindset of no matter how high of a level you become, you're never done. And also, whenever there's a task given to you, you just learn it. Oh, we have new DLC. I know nothing about them. I have to learn this. Just in case Riddles picks up Kazuya. Just in case DeBuzz picks up Min Min. Just in case Jake picks up Steve. You have no idea, and the task is given to you, and you don't have a choice. Versus saying, yo, I hate Steve. I'm not practicing against Steve. Who the hell plays Steve? It doesn't matter if basically no one plays Steve. If a top player picks him up, now he's a problem. Top players say, I'm learning this. Mid-level players say, hopefully I don't run into Steve. That's the difference. Yeah, the rate of improvement is pretty wild, bro. If you look back, I was talking about this the other day too, just kind of like as a small tangent. One of the biggest differences I've noticed within the game or within the community competitively is how much better players are getting at neutral with regards to playing much closer to each other, and how a lot of slower characters are coming up in the ranks because people are so much better at neutral. You've got Shattuck, you've got Skyjay, right? You got Leo playing Byleth, right? Like, you see these characters that are just slow, but people are making it work. It's like, well, why? It's like, because they're not getting trounced by fast characters anymore. Even Steve is not fast, right? He's very different. He's a unique character. He has lots of traps and specific things people just don't know about him. But as far as straight line speed, he's not a fast character, right? A lot of characters are just, they're not that guy, pal. Let's just put it like that. They're not that guy. They're not Fox. They're not Roy. They're not Sonic. They're not Joker, right? They're not Mithra. So when you see these characters coming up in the ranks that are much, much slower, eventually there's going to be a wave of players who are just disgusting ice climbers or disgusting duck hunts. And you can't do anything because you never played against these characters, right? It's going to be, as I would call it, the AMSA effect. It'll happen eventually. If this game doesn't die, it will happen eventually, where we have the AMSA effect. For anyone that doesn't know what that means, it's a melee player who played Yoshi. And he didn't come up into the ranks for years. I wouldn't say he wasn't a threat, but he was not known as a top world-renowned melee player for a very, very long time because Yoshi was considered one of the worst characters in the entire game. But he stuck true to him. And eventually, people had to learn that matchup. And this as a top player, you think HBox doesn't know the matchup? You think Zane doesn't know the matchup? You think Leffen doesn't know the matchup, or anybody else who's a top player? Right? They had to learn this stuff. That's just what it is.